Give us your reaction to Chase leaving, and I guess we can start to move forward. What the LSU receiver room looks like now once you get past Terrace Marshall and Racey McMath.
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm upset. I wanted to see Jamar Chase back for another year at LSU. I mean, he's a dynamic receiver. He obviously is a projected top 10 pick, and everything he did last year was just incredible. I mean, it would have been cool to see him go for a curtain call before heading off to the NFL, but this is a really, really weird year, and, I don't blame him for taking his talents to the NFL and not playing the season. It is what it is with this 2020 year and 2020 season, and I guess it's par for the course with the way 2020 since the national championship has gone. But yeah, you move on, and now I think you look at some of these younger receivers that Ed Orgeron's really talked up. You look at Racey McMath probably having to shoulder a lot more in this offense. He was viewed, of course, as the third receiver going into this year. Now he'll be the 1-2 guy with Terrace Marshall. And then Coy Moore is somebody that Ed Orgeron's really talked up a lot. There's a lot of competition in that receiver room with Coy Moore, Kayshon Boutte, Trey Palmer, Alex Adams, John Trey Kirkland, Jeray Jenkins. You can look at all of those guys as somebody who could break out. But Ed Orgeron's really gone out of his way to talk up Coy Moore. I think Eric Gilbert is somebody that will be looked to a little bit more. They could do different things with him. They've mentioned moving him around and putting him in motion. And he's a mismatch for a lot of defenses, at least from what we're hearing so far about the five-star freshman. So I think it's just everybody else stepping up. Maybe some of the balls that would have gone to Chase are spread around a little bit more in this offense.
Billy, one of the things I was talking about earlier is it doesn't have to look the same. You're replacing Jamar Chase. You're replacing Justin Jefferson. Justin was so good at running that 18-yard dig route. Jamar was so good at getting behind the defense. But you're just looking for production. Again, it doesn't have to mirror those. You're just looking for guys to get the ball in their hands and for them to make a play. So I do want to talk real quick about Trey Palmer because I mentioned it might not look the same. This is a guy you can put in the slot. He can run the bubble screens. He can run the nows. He can do whatever you want. It's really about getting the ball in his hands and allowing him to make a play. I know he only had one catch a year ago, but he's already got a punt return for a touchdown under his belt in his LSU career. So what are the strengths that you see from a guy like Trey Palmer?
I think, like you kind of mentioned, you can really move him around, and he's got that playmaking ability too. So I see him as somebody who could be a slot, stepping up in that Justin Jefferson role, but he has played on the outside, and he's seen a little bit of action. He hadn't had a ton of production, but like you mentioned, that punt return, which was really impressive. They can get the ball in his hands, and I think he broke that 50-year-old 100-meter or 200-meter state record in Louisiana as a senior. So he's got plenty of speed at his disposal to work with there. But Trey is probably getting ready to break out. I mean, he can really go, and I think he's one of those guys that you've got to include in that discussion.
What about Kayshon Boutte? What are the things that LSU fans can expect from him as far as receiver style? He's 6 foot, 180 pounds, so obviously a little bit different type of body than a Jamar Chase or even other options like a Terrace Marshall or, like you mentioned, Racey McMath. So what are some strengths to look for with Boutte?
I think with Boutte, I go back to his senior year, and really most of his high school career, though, they put him all over. He lined up at running back. He was a receiver, kick return, punt returner. I think they played him at quarterback a little bit even. And in that respect, the way LSU used Jamar kind of late in the season, you saw him line up at times in the backfield. I think that's something that Kayshon Boutte could do, not as a running back per se, but he probably could as well with as good of an athlete as he is. But they can put him there and then get him out into the flat, get him out on mismatches and do things like that if they want it. I actually see a lot of similarities in terms of just his versatility, and his body is a little bit more similar to Jamar's than you think. He's just probably not as thick as Jamar was coming out of high school. He was about 6'1", 195 coming out of Rummel. And so Kayshon Boutte, though, he's got that game-breaking speed as well.
All right, so let's talk some more about some veteran guys that have been here for a little bit. But obviously, Billy, you covered them in recruiting. Jeray Jenkins, John Trey Kirkland. Those are guys that are a little bit older in their LSU career, but they were obviously big-time recruits coming out. They have not yet had their opportunity to get on the football field. Can you see either one of those guys maybe stepping up and getting some playing time?
Yeah, I think you can. There's going to be, and one thing about this year that we don't know how it'll pan out yet, but we've kind of heard about it from around the country is who knows how all this contact tracing and COVID testing and everything works out when it comes to these guys, maybe having to miss a game or held out for a game. And so I think you can see more names than ever contribute to the football team. And John Trey and Dre have really been around and stuck with it. And John Trey's, probably been as big of a team player as anyone, where he's switching back and forth at times with corner and wide out. He's played scout team quarterback. He played quarterback at Lutcher, of course, when he was a recruit. And so, you look at those veteran guys that somehow just make a pop here and there late in their careers, and those are two guys that I think you can see that with.
I think when you look at Gilbert, obviously he's got the skill set, Billy, to play any role in your offense. He's going to be probably asked to be a receiver already this year, but Jamar Chase and missing that production, I can see him maybe playing more in the slot and Cole Taylor playing more at the tight end position, although I think both of them are already going to play. Can you see Gilbert being more of a receiver than he will be a true tight end?
I could see him getting more opportunities in that role. I think he's kind of like Ed Ogeron has said, he's going to stick with tight end at first and move him around like they did with Thad Moss at times. But I do think that the opportunities for him now are there more so than they would have been if Jamar would have opted to stay at LSU for his junior year. And Gilbert now can see more of those touches. And as he gets more comfortable, as this season begins and gets underway, they could make his role bigger and find different ways to get the ball.
Catching up with Billy Embody, 247 Sports here on Hangin with Hester and Hanny. All right, let's talk about this 2021 class, Billy, since we have you. Is there anything coming up? I know that LSU is extremely happy where they're at in this class. They continue to gain commitments. They got one the other day. Tristan Lee, I know, is a guy that LSU fans are waiting on. Anything coming up LSU fans should be paying attention to?
Well, I think one thing that we've seen the last couple weekends is really some of these colleges getting these guys on campus with player-led visits. So, Oklahoma and Georgia hosting 5-star recruits left and right, I believe last weekend, and had some of those targets on their campuses. Now, the coaches can't see them, talk to them, and all of that, and they're very limited, somewhat limited in what they can do as far as players checking out the college with this dead period. But player-led visits are starting to kind of become a thing, and I think one thing to watch will be if LSU can get some of these guys to stop by. They can't see them or whatever, but it'll be done, I'm sure, with some feedback from the staff. Hey, go check this out. If you hit Baton Rouge, go have lunch there or whatever. But I do think there's a good possibility we see some of these players say, you know what, I've got to get back to a campus like LSU and see it, and at least hang around town or walk the campus and lay eyes on some of the buildings and do all of those things before making my decision. And I think Tristan Lee is one of those players to really watch for that, especially.
Billy Embody, Go 247. Thanks for your time today. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Anytime, fellas. Thanks for having me.